Once I have my grandchild, you are nothing to me. These were the harsh words my mother-in-law, Mary, hurled at me after I finally became pregnant and gave birth in my 8th year of marriage. In reality, it seemed she didn't even want a grandchild. She probably thought she could kick me out and just live happily with her overly doted-on son, but life isn't that easy. I'm Janet, a 38-year-old housewife who finally had a child. My husband is Tom, a 40-year-old mama's boy. Tom has a younger sister, Emily, who is 7 years younger than him and still lives unmarried with our in-laws. So we lived in an apartment about 30 minutes away from Tom's parents' house. After 8 years of marriage, I finally got pregnant. It was such a long journey to this point. I naively thought getting pregnant would be easy after getting married, but 5 years flew by in no time. And then I really started to worry and went to the OBGYN. The doctor said there were no particular problems, which was a relief, but Mary was not convinced. If there's no problem, then why aren't you getting pregnant? Probably because you were fooling around before marriage. I had Tom just 1 year after getting married. Maybe there's a difference in how we perform as wives, she would say. Dripping sarcasm almost every day. Tom, my husband, also loved children, so he seemed to be running out of patience with me for not being able to conceive. And recently, he's been going straight to his parents' house from work on weekends and staying there. I was constantly on edge, thinking that if we didn't have a child soon, divorce might be on the table. So, when I finally found out I was pregnant, I was truly overjoyed. However, morning sickness started soon after, and I couldn't even be happy about being pregnant. In my case, I could only eat very specific things, smelling anything else was a no-go. So naturally, I couldn't cook. Then, of course, Mary would come over to our house just to criticize me. You're just lying around doing nothing while not even making meals for my dear Tom? What a splendid wife you are. Even Tom joined in, showing his mama's boy colors. That's right, mommy. She doesn't do anything for me. I'm working hard every day for Janet and our baby, and all she says is to buy takeout and eat that. I had no idea he was such a mama's boy before we got married. I never once heard him use words like a mommy before. On the contrary, he used to speak of her in a fed-up tone, saying things like, "She still treats me like a kid, and it's really annoying." However, with the severe morning sickness making it almost impossible for me to do any housework, I consulted with my mother and decided to go back to my hometown for the birth. Escaping from Mary's and Tom's nagging, I decided to stay at my hometown for nearly half a year, but this only increased Mary's criticism. When I had Tom, going back to your parents' house for childbirth was unthinkable unless it was a serious matter. People nowadays just don't have any grit. I'm so worried about what will happen after the birth. Feeling anxious about whether Tom would oppose it, I talked to him about going back to my hometown for the birth. Surprisingly, he agreed readily. It's hard to see Janet suffer with the morning sickness. It's better for her to rest at her parents' house. Tom said he would take care of convincing Mary, so he sent me off. But this turned out to be a huge mistake. After giving birth to our son, Kyle, and once I was feeling better, I returned home to find Mary sitting cross-legged in the living room. She wasn't sitting like a guest, but more like she owned the place. On closer inspection, she looked different than usual, with minimal makeup and dressed in casual home clothes. It certainly didn't look like she had just come by train or bus from her home. Moreover, looking around, I saw a lot of her personal items like the dresser, favorite dishes, and clothes. All of which I recognized from her own house. Could she be living here? Excuse me, Mary, are you living here by any chance? What do you mean by any chance? I came here for Tom, who was abandoned by his wife. I was so irritated by her words that I retorted. Abandoned? I properly consulted with Tom and got his consent. Then Tom interjected. That's not true. Janet left me on her own, mommy. See, I knew it. Such a wicked woman. What? That's not fair, it makes me the only malicious woman. Shocked and speechless, I was holding our sleeping Kyle, who then began to cry. Seeing this, Mary quickly picked him up, cooing, "Poor thing. You must have hated being held by such a terrible mom. Don't worry. Grandma's here to protect you." I screamed, "Give him back. He's my son. Tom then stepped in front of his mother, furiously yelling, "He's my son too, since he's your son. I've given permission. So it's okay for Mom to take care of him." Exhausted from the trip from my parents' house to our home, I didn't have the energy or strength to argue with the two of them and get my baby back. So I had no choice but to leave Kyle with Mary. Since then, she has treated our apartment as if it were her own, gradually making it more to her liking. She had already turned the sunny living room into her own space, and now she even put a crib in there. Not only that, but she also bought a bed for Tom, and the three of them started living there together. But that doesn't mean she helps with Kyle. All she wants is to see Kyle's smiling and sleeping face. Whenever he cries, she quickly hands him to me, saying, "I guess he's a failure because he has Janet's blood." Tom was such a good baby. He hardly ever cried at night, always adding an unnecessary comment. And she doesn't lift a finger to help me. She moved into our place under the pretext of caring for Tom and Kyle, but I end up doing all the parenting and housework. Make the food less salty, please. Such strong flavors aren't good for Tom. Why are the laundry still outside? They'll get sun damaged, hurry up and bring them in. Kyle's diaper is dirty. Change it quickly. She just pushes everything onto me. The only thing she does is take Kyle for walks. She hugs him tightly, goes to the park with Tom, and they all snuggle up together. When she sees other women with babies, she always talks to them, saying, "My daughter-in-law doesn't do any childcare at all. She just dumps it all on me, such a troublesome," spreading the story around. Thanks to her, I'm whispered about in the neighborhood as the evil wife, neglecting childcare, and receiving cold stares. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and confronted Tom. "Hey, I think it's time for Mary to go home," I said to Tom. "Huh? Why?" "Because she's not helping with Kyle at all, and despite saying she would help with the housework, she's not. I'm exhausted from doing extra cooking and laundry for her too." "Are you crazy? This house is running smoothly because Mom is here. Everyone in the neighborhood is praising her. Saying what a great grandmother she is," he exclaimed. As we were talking loudly, Mary joined in. "I heard that. You want me to leave? You're the one neglecting Tom." "Yeah, if you don't want to live with Mom, then you should be the one to leave." "Exactly. Since we have Kyle, we don't need you anymore." Frightened by their menacing approach, I realized they were serious about kicking me out. Feeling in danger, I decided to flee. At that moment, I apologized, "I'm sorry for being selfish. I took advantage of your kindness. I'll be more careful from now on." To calm their anger. That night, when Kyle started crying, I saw my chance. I took him from Mary's room and said, "I'm just going to take a walk outside." And then I escaped in a taxi to my parents' house. Arriving at my parents' house with only the clothes on our backs, Kyle and I were welcomed warmly after they heard the story. Sure, Tom has his faults, but his mother is unbelievable. That's right. She just moved into a married couple's home. By the way, what about Tom's father? Isn't he saying anything? Being asked about him, I suddenly remembered the existence of my father-in-law. He's a very serious and dedicated worker, and quite reserved. I've met him several times, but I've hardly ever heard him speak. Actually, even if I try to talk to him, Mary quickly intervenes and cuts off the conversation. He seems quite inept, probably not very capable of doing household chores. If Mary has been staying at our house for so long, how is he managing to live? Since Tom's sister, Emily, is living with him, maybe there's no particular problem. Emily, like my father-in-law, is reserved but a capable woman who efficiently manages everything. Maybe you should contact Tom's father and ask him to do something about his wife who is overly attached to her son, I suggested. That's true, this is really an issue between Tom's parents. So maybe you should explain the situation over the phone to his father and try not to get too involved, they advised. Indeed, if Tom's parents had a good relationship, his mother, Mary, wouldn't be clinging to her son or staying at his house. So there might be some issues between them. But I couldn't just call my father-in-law out of the blue and ask about their marital relationship. Nor could I bluntly ask him to take back his wife. So, I decided to call Emily, Tom's sister. Emily, this is sudden, but how is your father doing right now? Her response was unexpected. I thought you and Dad had nothing to do with each other anymore. What? What do you mean, nothing to do with each other? Actually, your mother has been staying with us and I had to flee to my parents' house. I'm trying to avoid divorce with Tom, especially for our child's sake. Emily seemed reluctant to get involved, responding, so, what does that have to do with Dad and me? What? What does she mean? I couldn't make sense of it. But it seemed Emily was just as confused, and we agreed to meet at a cafe the next day. That's when I learned something shocking. Tom, let's get a divorce. I said over the phone, fed up after 3 months of no contact from him since returning to my parents' house. What? Divorce? Wait a minute. He replied, sounding quite surprised despite not contacting me at all. Well, you were the one who told me to leave the house, right? Or did you mean we should live separately forever without divorcing? No, I didn't mean it like that. I thought if I was a bit harsh, you'd be nicer to me. Something seemed wrong. Thinking about it, even Mary, who was so obsessed with her grandson, hadn't contacted me once. Well, about that. Mom said she doesn't want a grandson with your blood, and she's been clinging to me. What's going on? He's calling her a mom instead of a mommy. Mom brought a huge teddy bear print t-shirt for me, saying I liked it as a kid, and tried to make me eat 10 cakes. And the other day, she even said she wanted to wash my back in the bath. That does sound a bit creepy. So, I was wondering if you could come back. Why didn't you contact me then? Well, it was originally your fault. It's not my fault, it's Mary's, right? She has no intention of leaving and doesn't want to live with me at all. I said sharply, and Tom stammered, well, that's when I bluntly told him what I had learned from Emily. There's no way she would leave. Your parents are divorced, aren't they? According to what Emily told me, her father had long suspected something was wrong. He noticed that his wife favored Tom over him and Emily, who resembled him, and he even questioned why Tom didn't resemble him at all. When his wife insisted on moving in with Tom to take care of him, he thought it was abnormal and secretly requested a DNA test. The results showed no paternal relation between him and Tom. When confronted, his wife admitted that Tom was the child of a man she was truly in love with while being in a relationship with her husband. Things escalated quickly after that. Her husband demanded a divorce, and with no place to go, she clung to Tom. No wonder she brought all her belongings, from clothes to accessories. She had nowhere else to go. Tom, turning red, confessed, yeah, that's right. I didn't know I was born out of an affair. It's a huge shock. And Mom keeps saying you're the child of the man I loved and clings to me. She even took my credit card, saying she'll manage my finances. And spent all my money. Well, that sounds like something she would do. Her trying to kick me out was probably because she wanted to monopolize her beloved son, and she didn't like that I, a housewife, was using Tom's salary. While Tom and his father are still legally father and son. His father intends to file for a declaratory judgment on the non-existence of a biological parent-child relationship. It's difficult to dissolve a parent-child relationship, and it's unclear if it will be recognized in court. But his father has hired a top-notch lawyer and is determined to fight it out. Look, I don't have a home anymore, and I'm stuck with my burdensome mother. I need you to come back and help me handle her. Huh? What are you talking about? So basically, you want to dump your troublesome mother on me? No way, I'm not interested. After saying that, I hung up the phone. Then, I quickly asked Tom for a divorce. I also demanded alimony, a share of the property, and child support. I got the lawyer, who was handling my father-in-law's divorce and the disconnection of the parent-child relationship with Tom, to take care of these matters as well. As a result, Tom and his mother ended up with a significant debt from the alimony and other costs, forcing them both to work non-stop. Every day from morning till night. Well, that seems like a natural consequence. Now, I'm living with my parents, raising Kyle. I started a clerical job through a friend's referral, and it's going well. Though I've lost contact with my father-in-law, Emily, who lives with him, still visits occasionally because of her blood connection to Kyle, helping me out a lot by playing with him. I'm determined to raise Kyle well, hoping he doesn't turn out like Tom.